It's just a wonderful place to.
Are you okay?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Yeah, whenever you cannot hear me, please let me know, okay? All right. So today I'm a bit conflicted about how I'm going to talk about the topic for today. Because I don't want to, I've chosen to talk about reincarnation. So I don't want to, speak in a way that fascinates the mind without being helpful for everybody's daily life and practice. So I'm going to try my best to keep that balance. And because I'm a lay practitioner, I'm not a monk. I never feel, fully qualified to give a Dhamma talk. So therefore, I try my best to seek the help and guidance of enlightened beings. I hope that they will surround me with their energy and guide my speech in such a way that I will speak correctly and helpfully for everyone. So last time I've talked about compassion, and it's something that I try to practice. It's to keep this practice of compassion in my daily life. And I talked about sort of how to be mindful about compassion, paying attention to the kind of people that there are in the world, the four kinds: the happy, the unhappy, the virtuous, and the wicked, and exercising right compassion. But of course, the most important message there would be you shouldn't put your mind in a state of worry about the people that there are in the world. Instead, you should openly give compassion to everyone. But when it comes to action, to compassionate action, to the kind of action that you do, then you need to be mindful. So today I want to expand a little bit on that topic and move more towards the question: why should we be compassionate? What is the purpose of it all? Why should we practice? Why is meditation so important? And meditation, or the path of the yoga, is such a thing that no matter how much you take, it is always good. So it's almost as if when you're thirsty, when you're very thirsty, a drop of water helps quench your thirst. A mouthful of water helps quench your thirst. If you drink a full glass, it most definitely helps quench your thirst. And drinking the whole bottle will quench your thirst, right? So the Dhamma is such a thing that no matter how much you take, even if you take a small drop, it does help, right? And you can verify that to practice. And if you're the kind of person that is satisfied with the drop, of the Dhamma, and you think that is fine, yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's good. Continue doing what makes you feel happy, at ease. What brings you benefit and merit. But there's far more to the Dhamma than that, and it's important as Buddhists to also reflect on the topic of reincarnation. This is something that is, again and again present in the Buddhist sutras. The yogic traditions talk about it all the time. So how should we understand reincarnation, first of all? And secondly, what can we do as practitioners, having all of this in mind? Well, I won't say that reincarnation is a matter of belief, right? Many people say, I believe in reincarnation, or I don't believe in reincarnation. From my point of view, and this is just my point of view, reincarnation is just a fact. It's a state of, that's how it is. And I'm saying this, there are plenty of there's plenty of evidence out there. You just need to go and look. there's evidence. If your mind is configured in such a way that you need that type of like visual, palpable evidence that is sometimes associated with science, because ultimately science is a type of activity that uses the senses and organizes our sensory data, right? Science is reliant on sensory input. But if you're that kind of person that wants that type of sensorial evidence, there is such evidence. I mean, there is evidence of children, that report past lives. There is evidence of people having marks, so they died violently in another life, and they still show those marks on their bodies. It's very compelling, and there are people who have went on and investigated this, again and again in different centuries, in different eras. There have always been people who are, have this like habit of the rational mind that have went out there and gathered the evidence and the cases and all of that. And also then in the United States at the University of Virginia, there is a research group that does this type of investigation. So, there's a lot of evidence. So, from my perspective, from my point of view, there's no point in, if you really want to get your mind in that zone of like checking it and doubting it, go ahead, you can do it. But I think it's best as practitioners and as Buddhists and as people who are yogis, are practicing the path of the yoga, to just accept that this is a state of fact. This is how it is. So then the next question is, how does that impact our practice, right? Well, it impacts our practice positively, I think, because it is very clear that our task is enormous, right? There's much more to what we do when we meditate than just relieving stress or anxiety, right? We are dealing here with forces and perhaps habits that have been settled with us for many lifetimes, and it is important to recognize that. And the second thing is that if you have come to this path, if you have come to meditate, if you have come to practice, to listen to the Dhamma, then I think this is a great opportunity, because we know that there are many lifetimes, many eras where, the message of the Buddhas does not exist, or it's not heard, or all the names of the Buddha and all of the statues of the Buddha, all of its representations are gone, are missing from the world, or we simply do not have the opportunity to listen to the Dhamma, to access the Dhamma to any extent. So we should be really grateful that in this life, right now, in this moment, we are able to be exposed to the Dhamma. And this is something that it is not only life-changing, it can be changing at the level of your core being. So it is important to have that gratefulness, right? And to sense that opportunity. It's almost like the opportunity of like finding a huge sum of money, or like a deposit of gold, right? So the Dhamma is such a thing that when you meet it and you kind of look into it and to examine it, you really feel that this is really deeply transformational, and one should be very grateful about it. Now, when it comes to the level of the practice, having this sort of like, enormous cosmic context in mind, what should one do? How can one work? And how does, the topic of reincarnation factor into your daily practice or your daily life? So it is important to realize kind of the limitations of the human mind, right? So we have the impression that we are tied to a certain past, right? And we have memories of the past, of course. But if you start examining, I actually wanted to have to guide a meditation on memory, because that's kind of interesting to look at. you can, of course, it is within the realm of Buddhist meditation, is part of satipatthana to meditate on the intellectual faculties. Just as you meditate on your breath, you can examine your faculties. And when you start examining the memory, you realize how limited it is. It is in fact like the past is not real, because your memory of the past is just these fragments, but there is an aura around them, that gives you a sense that they are complete, but they're not. In fact, there are things that most of the things you don't remember actually. So it's kind of interesting. I would encourage you to try to meditate on the nature of memory. It's very interesting. So the content of memory is not important. Whatever you think you remember from the past, from your own past, is not important. It's absolutely relevant, because most of that stuff it's flushed down. Like it's it's not stored. You can compensate through imagination to an extent, but even that, is not sufficient. Okay, so just forget about it, the content of memory. So what is truly important actually is habit. So the habits actually stay with. Those are the things that build the bridge from the past to the present. Those are the things that give you the impression that you have a continuous consciousness throughout your life, right? The habits. And the Buddha really talks about the habits and really takes aim at the nature of habit formation and habit forming. He talks about it as attachment, right? So how do you form an attachment? Well, you are simply exposed to like some sensory input, right? You meet, you touch something, you taste something, you smell something, you see something, and you have a reaction to it, which is a pleasant or unpleasant, right? And if that reaction is strong enough, there's a very good chance that you will want to either seek that sensory input or run away from it. And basically, you want to repeat that action again and again. You can see it with like empirically with very small children, that if they do something fun, they want to do it again. And they say that again, they want to repeat that. And there's no limit to how much they want to repeat it, simply because they seek to reconstruct that first sensory input. But of course you cannot, because like the nature of like our reality is such that you cannot relive the past in the same way. You have to reconstruct it in the present, right? So you seek the same type of thing again and again, in the present. So the Buddha argues that this habit formation through attachment is so strong that it is not only present in this life, but goes on through many lives. Okay, so that's why it's very important to seek to live a life that does not have very strong sort of stimuli of either sense, because there is a very high chance that once you are exposed to such strong stimuli, that you will continue those patterns, not only in this life, but through many lives, right? And that is some of the causes of sort of like this trauma, right, that exists in some people, because it might not only be, like a matter of like, of this life, it might be from many other lives, not just one. Okay, so it's very important to realize that, right? So it might be that in this life you instantiate that trauma again simply because you feel the need to do it, and pain, just as pleasure, is equally addictive, right? So people are driven towards painful action just as much as they're driven towards pleasant ones. So it's really important to realize sort of this the power of attachment, the power of habit, right? Now, when it comes to the ways in which, if you're really interested in examining sort of examining past lives, examining your other lives, there are ways to do it. You can do hypnosis in a deep trance. You can see some of the memories, and usually you can only access those memories that are strong enough. That's why all of the instances of memories that appear through hypnosis or through things like that, they're like usually like key memories, because all the other ones, they're flushed away. Another way to do it, if you're very advanced in meditation, is to simply do samyama. Samyama is a form of meditation that takes aim at a particular faculty or a particular feature to obtain a specific result. So this is where sort of like we have to go to the Yoga Sutra. The Yoga Sutra is very good at explaining the technicalities of meditation more than the Buddhist sutras. According to Yoga Sutra, there are three stages of meditation. The first one is dharana, then you have dhyana, and you have samadhi. And finally, samyama is a type of samadhi that you practice on a specific object or faculty, right? Now, most people say that, everybody says, I'm meditating, right? But in fact, that is not correct. We are all actually practicing dharana, right? Meditation is dhyana. Very few of us reach the stage where we can actually practice dhyana. And dhyana is like the type of meditation where is described sort of like when you take hot oil, and you pour it from one pot into the other, and there's a continuous flow, okay, of that oil. So most of us in meditation, we are still struggling to use mindfulness to go back to the meditation object, and we are trapped in that game. And it is good to do that because it's almost like training a muscle. So if you practice mindfulness enough, then your focus will become stronger, and ultimately you will get to practice dhyana. And if you practice dhyana very well, and that flow is truly continuous, then and you reach a stage where the meditation object shines by itself, then you enter the state of samadhi, right? So it's all very practical. I mean, there's nothing in meditation that it's almost like it's a science, really, like you have to do it this much. And the monks, like the monks know this, like you have to meditate for so many, it's almost like you can almost time it, you have to meditate for so long, like with this quality, and you obtain this result, so that's how it is, it's just it's just very practical. And when you do samyama, when you reach the state of samadhi and you practice samadhi on one of your faculties, the faculty that you want to practice on, apparently, is your features of the mind. So the mind has you try to analyze the characteristics of your personality. The things that you like most, the things you dislike most. You just focus on those, and then your lifetimes where you acquired those key features will open up for you, right? So ultimately, you carry all your memories, all your past lives always with you. Okay, they're not somewhere else, they're like here with you, here and now, always, right? And through meditation, you just bring them, bring them to realization. There is nothing, I mean, they're with you, always. You just bring them to realization. There's nothing, you don't go anywhere, you always have them with you. And you can imagine that any being, has had countless lifetimes, right? So any of us had infinite lifetimes, right? Now, I since it's getting a bit late, I just want to bring this back to sort of the point of compassion, why it's so important to hold a practice of compassion. If you don't do anything else, it's not important to reach samadhi, it's not important to practice these very advanced states of meditation, although one can do that, right? The most important thing, if you don't do anything else, is to practice compassion, just because that is how you resolve all the issues that you've acquired, through many lives. Because ultimately, compassion is the opposite of attachment in a certain sense. So when you are attached to something, you're seeking to repeat that. But through compassion, you realize that anything is the same, you don't need that particular object to come back to your attention, right? Or that experience. It's all good, so being compassionate, you just like step back and you open yourselves up to everybody, to acknowledging every experience, as being equal, right? And everybody as being equal. And you don't make hierarchies, you don't worry about like about things that might happen to you and so on. So that's why it's important to have a mind of compassion. Okay, so I'm emphasizing there's a difference between like doing it, having a mind of compassion, just embracing everything. So that is the most important practice, and it's a practice that you don't practice on the cushion. It's something that you do like in the other parts of your life always. So that's why it's important to have these compassion checks, to see, okay, what is the state of my mind right now? How am I doing right now in terms of compassion, right? Do I have a mind of compassion right now, or do I not? So asking that question is actually a form of mindfulness, of bringing yourself back to that state of compassion, just as you bring yourself back to the breath when you're meditating on the cushion. So I think these are all the main points that I wanted to highlight here. Thank you so much for letting me speak, and I hope you found this interesting and useful in some way. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank